Ireland, so beautiful and so green, so filled with friendly faces and enjoyable things to do. Well worth the visit. Let me tell you about it. Breakfast is something Ireland loves, and boy, was this breakfast amazing. Also, the flowers were in bloom, so many more flowers than I had ever imagined. I had no idea that the growing zone is 8 or 9, more similar to Southern California. Shockingly, it stays between 45 and 65 degrees on average in Ireland all of the time. Yes, there is generally a lot of rain, but for the 10 days that I was there, it did not rain one drop. The weather was spectacular between 65 and 70. It was sunny, and I didn't need my raincoat. I did need a windbreaker for the times that I was on the ocean, but it was absolutely spectacular weather, which I don't think is terribly common. We were definitely blessed. We did really enjoy our time there. This is Sutton, which is also a town next to Howth, Howth, which is a coastal town closer to the Dublin airport, maybe a half hour or less. And so it is a wonderful place to go if you happen to have beautiful weather and want to be near the coast. I went for a walk on the cliff walk and just took some lovely pictures of the ocean and the homes and the florals that were in the area around that place. Look at the size of this peace lily. It is massive. The weather again was just perfection. This is the view from my hotel, and it is high tide here at this moment, but when we first got there it was low tide. And we walked along the water, and it was just such a beautiful, peaceful place to be. There were not a lot of people at the hotel, and there were not a lot of people around and about in the area until you got down to the actual cove. And that's where the restaurants and bars and such were. And we did spend some time there on one of the days that we were here in this area. There are just so many incredibly beautiful things in bloom, very lush from the amount of rain that they get, so everywhere. And there are some mountains in the background, not like I'm used to in New Hampshire, but definitely some beautiful mountains. And there is an island off of the land where we are, and we saw a number of ferries coming and going from other places to here in Howth and Sutton Cross. And then once we walked over, further up, we saw on the bay the lighthouse and had a very decent meal. I had some shrimp that was just wonderful. They had lots of fish markets all over the place. They had, I believe this is the original train station, and just a waterfall along the walk. We did a lot of walking, 10 miles a day, I would say. This is St. Mary's Church, which was also along the walk. And there was also a castle in the area that we went to see. This is the gates from the castle walls. And I cannot remember whether this is just called Howth Castle or Howth Castle, or if it had another name off the top of my head. But it was a place that we could wander around. There was a place with a golf course and cafe near here. And just here it is from the back. That is the backyard, I guess you would say. And then all the beautiful, beautiful architecture from so many hundreds of years ago. And this is a private residence now. You can go in and have cooking classes on one portion of it. You can go to the golf course and the cafe, but you cannot tour the castle unless you are shooting a movie. And so, we didn't bring our equipment for such a thing. So we did not go into that castle. And then the walk back along the sides of the castle and some of the other architecture in this beautiful area that is not very well visited from what I understand. I chose it from its locale to the ocean because I happen to just absolutely love the ocean. Look at that beautiful home. And this is the low tide from the view from my hotel room. And that particular hotel has just been purchased and is being 100% revamped. So I'm sure that it will be a lovely place to visit soon. And then this is some of the architecture in the next town that we visited. And this is COBH, but it is pronounced Cove, like we would say COVE. And it is a very small coastal town, and it is very lovely. It is a wonderful day trip. There is not a zoo, maybe an animal sanctuary, and the centerpiece other than the harbor are some absolutely beautiful rainbow colored homes and this most spectacular cathedral, which is definitely at the center, and it has absolutely glorious views everywhere you look. And it is really something to behold. There happened to be a funeral when we walked up to it, so we did the best to take some pictures of it without, disturbing anybody. And that really was just an incredible piece of architecture that is well worth seeing in that area. The day was again in the 65-70 range, so we had gelato on the ocean, and we heard some traditional music being sung at the seacoast, and just walked along and just really soaked in the sun and enjoyed the beautiful views of this town. This is definitely just a day trip, and there was also some information about the location here where the Titanic passengers boarded and, of course, never came home. So there was some historical information about that and a couple of other things. I love these beautiful circular rainbow homes, and really it is a very relaxing place to just enjoy. Here is one of the hotels we stayed in, had such a lovely staircase. Stokes is my grandmother's maiden name, and I thought it interesting since it's the clockmaker, and my husband is a clock repairman, so that was kind of a fun coincidence. And then here we are heading back to Dublin. I didn't take a lot of pictures of Cork, I recognized as I was going through these pictures, but in Dublin we saw much of the beautiful architecture and the gardens. One of the hotels we stayed in Dublin was on Stephen's Green, and that was a huge, phenomenal park. And we also went here to the Dublin Castle, which also had the Dublin Gardens, and it was a little bit of a secret garden within some of the higher city walls of larger architecture. So finding that castle and that garden was absolutely beautiful. Again, another gorgeous day, really enjoying the splendid history and architecture, and especially this gorgeous garden inside the courtyard of this beautiful castle. And I did really enjoy taking the pictures of the garden at every beautiful angle, trying to, of course, avoid people that could have been in these pictures. This castle is beyond, it is just so incredibly gorgeous with those spears and the just stonework and just the incredible architecture among this garden. It is quite a gem not to be missed if you are in Dublin, which I have to say was not recommended as highly as I would have given the number of places that we were at. I thought Dublin to be quite spectacular. I wouldn't want to stay down near the river. It is a little loud and rowdy for us, but on the green was a really spectacular place to stay, especially if you don't mind walking, a mile or whatever to get around. There's trains and trams and buses everywhere, so transportation is certainly available so that you can go and see anything that you want to see, if you don't mind that constant getting on and off trams and trains. We enjoy walking, and so we probably walk 10 miles a day, and really just had a wonderful time sightseeing. We also toured the Trinity College, and that is in Dublin, and we also toured the Cork University when we were in Cork, so those were also worthwhile. Cork University, another one that was very hard to find, the Cork Castle, as well as the Dublin Castle, and so we really just enjoyed mostly the architecture. So I do, definitely recommend 8 or 10 days if you get a chance to go just for, Dublin, Cork, Galway. We spent 10, and then we did a couple of smaller side trips, and that was sufficient. So here is the beautiful architecture within Dublin. Some of these are historical buildings, not all of them well marked, so you may be standing in a very historical site and not know it, because it really wasn't as well, designed as far as that goes as I would have expected. There was this fun angel wing mural that we had also done when we were in Nashville, so we thought it would be fun to get them here in Dublin as well. Against the wall as well. So they had that, I believe, in Dublin. And so again, these buildings I do not know the history of. Some of them are churches, some of them are now apartments. A lot of the churches have been turned into pubs or apartments, which is a little bit sad, but at least not torn down. And just again, the gorgeous architecture. And so we walked along every side street that we could possibly walk along to make sure that we didn't miss anything of significance. But of course, you can only walk so far in such a large city. We jumped on and off some trams and some buses. We did take the train to other locations when we wanted to get there quicker. I think the coach was much more comfortable than the train, but certainly the train gets you there a little bit quicker. And then we do not know some of these buildings, but we, did the best we could to find out what we could. And then, of course, we went into Trinity College. So this Trinity College is open to the public, and you can just walk into the square and see this incredible architecture that is still being used today as a university. And it just is reminiscent of a movie that you have seen where, they used this as a set. And I'm not sure if they've ever technically used this particular university as a set, but it definitely has a feel for a number of movies that I have seen. And, it is breathtaking. in its beauty. And so the Trinity College, absolutely gorgeous. Cork University, much, much, much smaller, and, maybe not worth the 2-3 mile walk if you are not interested in getting, up the hills and such in Cork to get those pictures. Another hotel, beautiful, beautiful. The lights, the crown moldings, and all the other lovely things, just absolutely beautiful. This hotel we stayed in had a beautiful courtyard. This is taken from the train, just a little bit of the greenery from town to town as we headed into another area of probably, let's see, oceanfront. So this now is Galway. So Galway is my historical home. My great grandparents came from the Galway area. My maiden name Connolly is on everything, and so it was really wonderful to see the connection to the things that I love. I love sheep, I love farmland, and I love the ocean. And those three things surrounded me at every turn when I was in that place. And so that really was a wonderful feeling to understand a little bit about who you are when you are walking among your historical home. So I think that if you have any history to Ireland or whatever country you're from, it is well worth the visit. I am also Italian and could not love Italy more. So I think that for me, it was just an absolutely beautiful connection to my heritage. And I just really enjoyed the feeling of being home and getting to know myself a little bit better, if that makes any sense to you. Galway also had these beautiful rainbow homes along the river, and it going through from Galway back home, a lot of the farmlands and cows and sheep everywhere. That really beautiful stone homes, some crumbled down castles and things. So going by train or by bus through that beautiful farmland was also very peaceful and calming and beautiful. So this Galway area was, again, an area that we definitely are glad that we got a chance to visit. I would say Galway is just a 1 or 2 day thing unless there's a festival or something going on, because it is, again, much along the coast, a few restaurants and lots of shops. But, more than 2 days, I don't know what else you might do there. I did not do a lot of research in the area. You would really need a car, of course, if you don't mind driving on the other side of the road. And for me, forget about it. After I watched them do that, I said, absolutely not. I will not be driving on the wrong side of the road, so I am going to leave that to you all to figure out. But certainly wherever you want to go, buses and trains and trams are typically available. But if you really want to see Galway, you are going to need another transport or to spend some more money on travel. I would have gone further out if I had planned that Galway trip a little bit better. It was just a last minute thing. And we did not make it over to Waterford, and that is another area. You could see the Waterford Crystal, and you could see the museum across and the center of town that is quite famous, and so that might be another area that you would like. But I thought here Galway was quite interesting, the juxtaposition between the old and the new, and the beautiful storefronts and beautiful ways that they display their wares, and so definitely worth visiting. Of course, we saw sweaters, beautiful, beautiful sweaters. I have one my friend gave me from Ireland. I did intend to purchase one, but quite honestly, as gorgeous as they were, and really the price was not bad at all, I did not have room in my carry-on. So I opted not to do that, especially given the fact that it was so warm and a sweater was not necessary. In fact, I stayed in short sleeves and a little windbreaker pretty much the entire 10 days that I was there. So definitely check the weather report before you pack, because everyone said how it was going to be cold and wet and damp, and I brought all kind of sweaters and sweatshirts and raincoats and did not need any of it. So there you have it. And that is a piece of a beautiful castle structure through the train window, some sheep and some cows along the line. I'm probably in the Limerick area heading back to Dublin from Galway, and then on to Cork. And we did enjoy a church service in Cork. It was spectacular. We made lots of friends there very quickly. We did enjoy the architecture and the college, but we did not take a lot of photographs of that area. We did stay in a hotel that required a lot of uphill walking. Would not recommend that since we were already walking 10 miles a day. That was quite a lot of exercise. So you do want to be careful if you stay in Cork, where exactly you are staying and what you want to be near or not near. And so again, you're going to see lovely structures, absolute beautiful. At the interior of our hotel room, look at that ceiling. Just absolutely wherever you go is going to be beautiful. So if you had it in your heart to visit Ireland, but you were concerned about the weather, then make sure that you make your arrangements between May, June, July, August time frame so that you can go when it is warmer. Keep in mind that it is actually quite almost tropical in some places, in that we saw palm trees and we saw many tropical plants that do not grow here in New Hampshire. So it is definitely a zone much warmer. I'm in a 5-6 zone and they're in an 8-9 zone. So, it really is just beautiful. And then back in Dublin, along the streets for shopping, which, Louis Vuitton, and they had all of the high-end, beautiful shops that I do not typically step foot in, Dior, and some of the others, because quite frankly, I am way too frugal to purchase things at stores like that. But it is always fun to see, as it was in Florence when we were there, and in Tuscany. It's always fun to see those beautiful appointed shops and such. But honestly, I love the architecture. And then, of course, the iconic Halfpenny Bridge, which is along the Bachelor Walk in Dublin along this river Liffey, and it is absolutely underwhelming in some ways. You expect it to be, this is the nicest part of it right here. I do not think that it was anything spectacular in the way of bridges, but has a sweet history for Dublin and is definitely walkable and has some enjoyable things around it, albeit a little bit more in the rowdy maybe section at night. So unless you like that, you may not want to spend a lot of time near that location in the evening. It is also much cooler there along the river, so that's where you definitely want the windbreaker or the sweater. And then here is a mall. They have a TK Maxx instead of TJ Maxx. We have in the U.S. And this mall was just really quite lovely. And one tip, there is a grocery shop called Dunn's, Dunnes, and you can get pre-made food and any kind of food there, much less expensive than a restaurant, and quite frankly, in some cases better. The food was only fair and good. It was nothing amazing in Ireland, although the Italian food was very good. We tried a little bit of everything. I would say you do want to save a little money, and that is one way that you can do it, go into Dunn's and get anything you want for breakfast or lunch, and then maybe save your money for a nice dinner. So that is a tip that I found very useful, and we did find them in pretty much every part of the larger communities that we were in. And so that would help for the penny pinching if you want to save the money for something else. We were able to as well get our flights for free because we are the kind of people that will put all of our purchases on a credit card and pay that credit card diligently every month, so we never have an interest payment and rack up our miles. So we flew to Dublin and back from Dublin home for free. So our expenses were the hotel rooms, the food, the places that we visited, and a lot more for transportation than you would think if you really want to get around. Between taxis and trains and buses and trams, that does add up. So you want to definitely factor that into your trip. And now we are back to the most spectacular garden that we walked through every day that we were in Dublin, St. Stephen's Greens, which is massive. Absolutely the biggest park I have ever been in, and easy to get lost. It is that big. Over bridges and ponds and flower gardens and fountains, and beautiful. And lots of people out on beautiful days, sunbathing and just enjoying the spectacular weather, the beautiful blooms. And so that is an area I would highly recommend getting your hotel room near or on if you can, because it is very peaceful and relaxing and gets you away from the Dublin city when you are looking for something restful to do for some period of time that you are traveling. And so I will love it if you would just leave me a comment if you have been to Ireland, what part of Ireland you have enjoyed most, and any recommendations that you have. I do want to say about the currency, of course, they do take euros, but you are not required or needing to have any euros. You can use your credit card for everything. We brought 500 and that was way more than we needed. So enjoy, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.